Hello and welcome to week 10 in the psychology of adulthood. And we are in chapter 10, which is adult sexuality, or essentially sexuality across the lifespan. And it's particularly relevant for us to bring this up because our society both minimizes sexuality as certainly not the most and only important part of relationships, but yet sexuality is everywhere. It's in our music, it's in our advertising, it's center for um, motivation and a huge part of attraction and living the adult life. And so it's an important thing to talk about as it exists across the entire lifespan in adulthood. So when we think about middle adulthood into late adulthood, now it might be difficult for us to envision our parents having sex together, but they did. And um, sexuality remains important throughout the lifespan, and an individual's capability or their sex life is based upon three factors leading right to the end of their lives. And those three factors can be euphemized as a analogy of riding a bike. So rather than talk about sex, let's talk about riding a bike. Now, if we encounter a middle-aged older person and they're not having sex, why not? And it might be for the same reasons they might not be riding a bike. Now, first, they might not have a bike. That's the first. So and as we age and we go into old age, and maybe our partner passes away, maybe we are no longer in a relationship, we're single, so we don't have a bike. The second is I'm too physically challenged to get on the bike. And so the other thing that can happen because of a disease process or because of aging muscles and aching bones and whatnot, I just am not able to engage in riding a bike. And the third one, very psychological, I might think that I look pretty stupid at my age riding a bike. So maybe the my aging body, not not quite as magazine worthy as it used to be. And the thought of being naked in front of someone and sharing that is abhorrent to me. The these ideas, these barriers to fulfilling sexual life in middle and late adulthood are very real and part of many people's treatment plans. Is how can an individual, despite those barriers, still have a fulfilling and satisfying sex life. Now that brings into, certainly when we were looking at adolescence and young adulthood and whatnot, brings in the idea of sexual preference or sexual orientation. And I do a little political spiel on that. And that's actually created some interesting dialogue outside of class, or I get an email every once in a while about my perceptions about the use of the term sexual orientation as a biological manifestation versus sexual preference, meaning choice. And there's some history in terms of what that meant and why the community is veered toward orientation. And you can read up on that a little bit and see where that's going. Now, in terms of healthy sexuality, I have a little laundry list here that I talk about platonic relationships, relationships that don't have sexuality to it, but have the other levels of intimacy and passion and commitment that we've seen being very. Sex is good for you. I'll go into that in a little bit. The idea of consent, and here we get that another analogy of that video. It's so classic video about tea and consent, how important that is. Adding spice to your sex life. It was the reaction to the book movie 50 Shades of Grey, which exposed the world to a film that was based upon BDSM, sexuality, sadism, and masochism. BDSM, you have bondage, discipline, submission, dominance, sadism, masochism. Sadism, giving pain, masochism, receiving pain. These areas in that was so popular, it really kind of triggered a notion within the mind of sexologists and sexual psychologists, people who study sex, of what's going on here. This is a bigger issue. Where what entertains people, what turns them on, those kinds of things. Those areas are really revealing to all of that. As we age, research tells us sex gets better. We become more skilled. We become more relaxed with our own bodies and the bodies of our partners, and understanding what they want and they understand what we want. There are, however, hormone changes, body changes, but a persistent sort of addressing of each one of those. Most psychologists feel that that's a very healthy part of our development into as we age. So I decided not to have a discussion. I've had various discussions associated with this. One of them exploring that idea about sexual preference versus sexual orientation, and I at various times my self-assessment was it was almost sort of some people felt a little uncomfortable with it, and I have no problem with being people. I have no problem with making my students feel uncomfortable by having them talk about things. But I decided for this that I just lay this out wherever you're at, wherever you're working, wherever you are in lifespan. The only thing I'm asking you to do is, what did you get out of this? Was there anything surprising? Was there anything interesting? Was there anything that you didn't know before and now you know that? Um, do you have stories to tell? You've worked in a nursing home and you can, oh yeah, they're sexually active. Uh, those kinds of things, it's a reflective quiz, just reflecting on the content of the chapter and what you learned from it, and just simply documenting that you are paying attention here. So, so great. That's it. It's kind of almost like a little break. Sit around as adults and talks about sex, and so that's this week's chapter. So no discussion this chapter. So I will read those as they come in. So have a great week exploring the idea of sexuality in adulthood, and take much care. See ya.